Hey, what's up, everybody? You are listening to Embrace the Madness. My name is Madeline. I'm so grateful you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back. If you're a listener of the pod, and if you are brand new, thanks for randomly finding my podcast. Maybe there was a reason. Yeah, we just talk about kind of this idea that being a human is kind of like a big WTF moment, and in order to not get lost in the despair, I think that we have to kind of like talk it out, figure it out, kind of let go of some of the heavy shit. And yeah, I think when we can take all of the experiences we have, and these are experiences both painful and happy, like positive and negative, and when we can take all that and kind of use it to our benefit to make us stronger and happier and healthier, why not? That's where I'm at. And if you really want to go back, I talked about all this like right when I started the podcast, kind of like what is meaning, what are we doing here, what kind of very existential things, what the heck. And I guess where somewhere I'm landing is I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know if we'll ever know that we can know what we're doing here, just because we are little kind of smaller versions of this huge, massive, infinite uh consciousness. But because we are on a floating rock in space doing who knows what, I mean, dude, those telescope pictures. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Because that's also the truth, like that there is no meaning, and we're just kind of like we're ants to someone else or something else. But yeah, all that long story short is because we don't know what our meaning is, we don't know if there is even a meaning. It's up to us to kind of do what we will with that information and make the best of it. Or we don't have to make the best of it. That's also very much a personal choice. But I've lived a lot of my life not feeling good, so I'm like, let me skirt real quick and start doing things that make me feel better and happier. And let me adjust my thing real quick. Okay, we're back. So wherever you are, whether you've tuned in before or you are now like, what in the heck did I just click on? Welcome. I'm very grateful to have you. It's so cool knowing that there's people out there that listen to this and they get something out of it. And I mean, that's really why I share it, just because like who does know what the heck's going on? If something's helped me, let me share it, with the hopes that it might help other people. So grateful for you. I'm glad to be back. I was kind of like not, I was just, I was in my funk. I just go through these cyclical funks, and I wasn't podcasting. I wasn't really inspired to make any content. I was just kind of feeling like, bleh. But I'm back. I've recorded episodes at least like for the last month. So that's awesome. I'm trying to find my groove back. I'm also like on TikTok too, which takes up a lot of my energy. I have to kind of figure out how to do it because I'm kind of phasing my job out of the situation so I can start working for myself and do my own thing. And so, like, trying to find time between that and making content, DJing, like, I have to be really selective and intentional with my time. So, because podcasting is something that I really enjoy and I want to keep going, I got to find time to do it. And so, that's where we're at. If you aren't already following me on TikTok or the Instagram or really anything, uh, TikTok is at Madeline Holdford, MaDeleneHoldford. And yes, I've had to do that my whole life. It's a long name. And my Instagram is at embrace the madness _ So There will be links in the show notes if you want to click those instead. But just sending you that love. And then one more thing before I get into the episode. I did have a Patreon. Now it's kind of retired, but I'm still using it. You can still subscribe monthly to support me on my creative journey. And yep, yep. That link is also in the show notes, but it's www.patreon.com/embrace the madness. Whew. All right. So today I wanted to talk about this thing that I'm kind of realizing is coming up in my life, specifically at this time, because I've been, like I shared, phasing myself out of working for others. It's really come to my attention that I am attracted to the freedom of being able to work for myself. And, sometimes, and now that I'm not like that, I'm less afraid to talk about astrology. I will literally embody my energy. I think just as a Virgo, Virgo for sure. I have this need to just like have things done, in an aesthetically like organized way. And what I'm also realizing is my son is in the house of like work and daily life. And so it makes so much sense that I would want to work for myself. Also, I feel like kind of moving in this new direction of like, we've just been conditioned to think that the epitome of like a successful life is having this job, working this 9 to 5, whatever, working for others, helping others build their business. And there's nothing wrong with that fact. I think we've been conditioned so much that we forget that anything else is possible. And I think that is something also I'm realizing in my kind of shift the way is like it was never really talked about when I was a kid, or I didn't really have a lot of models that I remember who had started their own business or was working for themselves. I don't really think I ever like heard anything bad about entrepreneurship, but it wasn't a thing. My family, as I knew it, were working jobs for companies, other people, stuff like that. So I'm like, why did I even start talking about that? Yeah, who knows? All that to say is I've been realizing that because I want to pursue entrepreneurship, working for myself, building financial freedom for me and my family, that yeah, there's no other way. There's literally no other way. And like, there are little parts that make sense. Like, I am very independent worker. I just like doing things my way. And I know that, that could also be a toxic belief if it's unchecked. But it's just something like I'd also rather be doing things that are fulfilling my soul and my spirit. And dude, I was working in the restaurant industry for 10 years, if not more. And like, yeah, that's like an industry for people that want to help, but holy crap, you can get sucked in there. And I'm kind of excited that we're moving into this space of like, yeah, we're not going back to our restaurant jobs. And that's probably enough for a podcast. Enough of its own for geez, enough to be its own podcast. But for now, I'll stay in this lane. So I've been trying to do this thing. And if you're like brand new and you're like, where is she going? I like to do things like spur of the moment, like in the moment. So I used to, when I started the podcast, have outlines. I was very just like to the point of trying to control it. But now I'm like, oh, well, I feel like I flow better and I talk about other things when I just don't. It's like going in with a vague plan. So that's why I think I'm just kind of like jumping all over the place. If you're following me, hell yeah. If you're not, I'm about to find some structure. So, I think I was sharing just all of this because as I've been moving away from this land of where I feel like I have to be or I should be, I've noticed that I have experienced a little bit of resistance. And I think that what I'm realizing as I deepen my personal growth journey, as I learn more about myself, as I learn to just be and appreciate and practice gratitude and live in the moment, all of these things that I thought were like not good resume skills, I'm realizing that these things are gifts. And I always used to like start building a resume, like I would start typing it and I would just be like, what are my skills? And for a long time, I think that I didn't look at them as skills. And that's why I was like, how do I put this on my resume? But like, listening, empathy, compassion, like someone would look at that and be like, are you fucking kidding me? But like that reaction is I think what I have been afraid of. And what I mean specifically is, this idea that doing things emotionally, doing things from the heart, doing things based on love is kind of like, I guess I'll say futuristic. Because the way I perceive the world is a little bit not connected to their emotions, or at least whoever the fuck is running the show. And because I've just always been a very, 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 very sensitive person, I've always felt like, am I the weird one because I just feel a lot and I experience my emotions a lot? Me now, 29 years later, I'm like, oh no, that's not you. It's not you. But for 28 years, I thought that it was. And like, I'm just now realizing that I have a lot of likes and interests and skills and passions that aren't necessarily the norm. Or, yeah, like being vulnerable just isn't, it's becoming a strength now, I think, societally, and becoming something that we talk about now. But I really think that being vulnerable was a sign of weakness and a sign of not being strong enough to handle things. Or, like, I mean, I'm really thinking about back to like animals. Like, if you showed your weak side, or if you appeared at any point vulnerable, a predator was going to come get you. Like, I understand how we kind of like got to here, but it's like it's just crazy to see it in real time, I guess. But I guess the whole, and I don't even, my brain is all over the place. And I don't know if that's because I need to meditate or because I've just like unlocked this like pure flow of just ideas all the time. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I also just like, anyways, we're here for a podcast. I'm just being silly. At this rate, I need to record it because I'm doing a lot of funny hand gestures and just making a bunch of silly faces. What I'm getting at is, because I have perceived that talking about feelings and emotions and spirituality and higher power and manifestation and magic, mystical stuff, tarot cards, astrology, all of these things is because I feel like it's perceived as different or other. And when you feel other, you don't want to talk. Like you don't you don't want to show that you are other. You don't want to appear other to other people because then you might be rejected or you might think they're weird or dumb or, all these things. So I think as I get to learn about myself and know myself deeper, I am realizing that a deeper layer of sharing my authentic self means sharing these things that I'm passionate about. And I think for so long, I've been scared too, because I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I've been told that my tarot cards were the devil's, like when that's how I connect with my higher power. It's a little fucked up if you ask me. And I just mean, like, it's crazy that, like, I understand why people would be sensitive about wanting to talk about it and being very private and being vulnerable, because people, like, are quick to attack Christianity. Like, sometimes being a very proud Christian might get people, like, talking shit to you or calling you dumb, like, just things like that. And it's like, these deeper levels, like, spirituality is so personal and so subjective, and like we each experience it in a different way. And I think when we kind of attack that in another person, you're kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? And I have done this. Like, I've done this to people in the past. Like, I have a tattoo because I got it when I was an atheist. And I mean, I still believe and support evolution. But it's just like, just this kind of like, meh, like better than energy. And I feel like the way at least people on the internet talk about all these things, spirituality, manifestation, like, it's perceived as these people are crazy, these people are on another planet, these people are, and like, here, this also introduces the idea of duality, like the thought that it has to either be like you're either spiritual or you're not crazy. Like, it doesn't have to be a binary. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think I've just been scared to be perceived as dumb. That's probably one. Dumb because I've never wanted to appear dumb or like be perceived as dumb because, dumb means you get canceled. But yeah. And it's so interesting that, because I think it's all been happening so unconsciously. And I mean, here, we can take astrology, for example. I love this system so much. So much that I use it to help me understand myself, to help me understand how I interact with others and how I interact in the world. And like, I laugh too when people say like Mercury and Gatorade or blah, blah, blah. But it's so challenging to be proud of something that people make fun of, that you really in your heart believe is like, fuck yeah. And this could also be very people pleasing energy, very codependent energy. But in my experience and in my childhood, if I was, you know, doing anything that wasn't perceived correct, I got made fun of. And I also grew up very, very left brain, very like sciencey, very. And it was very binary. Like you can have science or you can have religion or God or whatever, but you can't have both. I mean, I think that's why I was an atheist for so long. And I don't now believe in this binary. Like, I really believe that one of my personal themes as a human or whatever the hell I am is centered around the intersection of science and spirituality because I love it so much. And I think it's such a cool way to balance both. And I think that what I've been conditioned to believe is that it can't be both, that there's not both. And I think that we still see this kind of mirrored in the collective now. I mean, I just feel like there's such a spectrum for anything and everything. Cause I'm thinking about like the new age QAnon intersection and like, if you're considered new age, you get put in this box. And I'm like, well, I know I don't belong in this box. I know who I am. I know that I'm a loving, kind, generous person. And I know that I'm not harming others that I'm consciously aware of. And that I have a very specific intention to not harm others. And so my brain, more specifically my ego, is like, oh, well, if you talk about spirituality and new age and, you might be perceived as crazy. And you know what happens if you're perceived as crazy? You get rejected. And obviously, fear of rejection is a big pattern. If you've been listening to the podcast, I talk about it a lot. And so I've just realized how unconscious this behavior I have had of just not sharing myself to my full extent. And like I said, I think that it's taken me a minute, anyways, to feel like I can share myself authentically because it really boils down to a safety thing and whether we feel like we're safe to share our true selves or we're not safe. So I understand that it's taken some time, but I didn't really realize how much this stuff, it's just, I'm putting all the pieces together. Because, like, as I've gotten into it, I just, I've slowly been starting to talk about it on the podcast, and I did a lot more in Patreon, but it's like I feel like I have this need to be perceived as rational or intelligent. And maybe I thought that this would be like, make people think I'm crazy. Now I don't give a fuck if people think I'm crazy. And like, that's taken me so much time to be able to say. But now I'm like, wait, I've been turning myself off this whole time. Like, if this stuff I'm so passionate about, like, duh, it's supposed to be in my life. Duh, I'm supposed to talk about it. Duh, I'm supposed to share it. And so I wanted to come talk about it because I feel like this is just another one of those kind of deeper nuances of not being afraid to share our authentic selves. And this is another topic that I talk about a lot. I wrote a blog about it. Just this idea that like putting a mask on for other people is actually creating a lot of resistance in our lives. And then I'm like making a face. It's like an epitome for me right now, but you're going to experience resistance if you are holding back who you truly are. And I definitely feel that because since I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start a business, I think my brain's like, okay, well, if you do it based on astrology, like what? Good luck finding success with that. And, these thoughts of being perceived as unintelligent, of being weird, things like that, like that's signaling things in my brain. Also, not to mention that, our whole entire existence, I guess, up till this point, like, I'm not going to say there haven't been jobs because there have been, surely, but they make it seem, and I guess they being society, like, make it seem like, oh, well, that's not a real job, or that's not a lucrative path to take, or blah, 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 blah. And this could also morph into its own episode too. But I really think that, in our Western society, the patriarchy values logic and rational thought and reason and logic and all of these things. And so I think that has been the the I'm gesturing my hands, like the essence of what it means to succeed or what it means to whatever. And so I think this also probably goes back to way a long time ago when organized religion started happening and the church saw people practicing their indigenous practices and was like, nope, nope. So I'm sure it's also like in a lot of our generation's DNA of just like having these practices and being noped. And like I feel in my Irish or Scottish, somewhere in their background, that, hold on, Davis is yelling at me, that there were these mystical practices that were not what organized religion was teaching. And so they either got killed or ousted or, just like completely, who knows it. And so I believe that through passing down DNA over generations, this gets passed down. I heard that they said 7 generations is like within our DNA. And that's fucking crazy. Like, it's crazy to think about, our grandparents or our great grandparents, like, struggles or experiences or traumas, like, literally being written in our DNA. And so, there's this idea of the witch wound, that the witches that were burned or killed because they were practicing anything other than Christianity. I did my neck thing. So it's like persecution's always been a thing. I guess when it comes to anything that's other than Christianity or God or like the norm or whatever, the church. So it's interesting to think about, how that gets perceived. There's this term, you might have heard it, called woo woo. And it was so fascinating. I heard someone explain it that, it's kind of perpetuating white supremacy because when you call something woo woo, it's like this this idea that it's like weird or like ooh, and who's the one thinking it's weird? People that are practicing Christianity, like so it's just wild that there's this like idea and sense of persecution for expressing our authentic selves, especially when it's connected to our creator and what we believe about life and what we believe about existence. And so, like, at least it helps me see, like, okay, well, here's maybe where my resistance or my fears are founded, or what's kind of motivating them, or what the context of, my conditioning has been. And it's so interesting to see. I mean, I guess especially just in my little personal life because I grew up so sciencey. Like, I've always been told I was really sensitive. I know they used to say I was like an old soul when I was younger, very wise. I don't really remember a lot of that. And I don't really remember if there was like an instance where, I mean, I definitely felt like my feelings, having big feelings made me feel wrong. But I don't know if I remember anything about spirituality. I did a whole podcast episode of my spiritual journey because I used to be an atheist and I went to Catholic high school. Then I was like really an atheist, and then I started opening up to other ideas like Buddhism, Taoism, just like these other ideas that offered something different than the Western concept of what religion and spirituality means. So I'm like, where was I going with that? It's definitely interesting to because it's like how do you handle this resistance coming up when it's like so visceral and so connected to who you are at your core. And those are just some of the things that I've been kind of navigating and like feeling the fear of, well, one, if I start my own business because I haven't seen it, firsthand, is it even possible for me? My ego likes to tell me all the ways that it's not. My ego likes to tell me that I'm dumb and I'm crazy. It's never going to work. And I I know people are going to be like, "Well, that's dumb." Like, I mean, literally, if you were to tell someone who was very grounded, rational, logical, that you're going to do something, you're going to build a business around astrology, they might think you're crazy. And I'm just now finally getting to a point where it's okay. It's okay if they think that because it's like you have to get to this part or this level on a seesaw, like your desire for experiencing your life in an authentic way and in a way that's authentic for you because you deserve that is greater than your fear of what other people are going to think or your fear of rejection or anything like that. And it's taken me some time to have enough have enough rocks on one side of the seesaw to make it like outweigh. Because like I was sharing, like I think this is just another nuance of like me sharing my authentic self. Like at first I was like, oh, well, sharing my feelings is meh. But like then I was fine. Like I've been literally sharing my feelings and my thoughts on the internet for the last 6 years. And it's less of a big deal than it is now to talk about my even deeper authentic self, which is very in tune with their spiritual side, very connected, very grounded in that realm, super into astrology, super air quotes out there. I just like made a weird noise. And here we are. Is this crazy? Because, like, literally, whether you believe in manifestation or not, I have been able to write on a piece of paper, not one music festival, but two that I was going to play. How? How does that happen? Like, how? Our logical brains have no fucking idea. Like, I get it. I understand. I understand that when logic is like, well, blah, 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 blah. But there's a whole ass other side of this where logic doesn't make sense and rational is not real. And you can't, it's, I mean, and it's also like this whole like forever long maybe debate on like how do you quantify experience? How do you put numbers or data or logic behind something that is so subjective and that is so felt and like words can't even describe? Like, and me coming from that background, that really sciencey left brain logical background was also like that. But you literally can't refute the experience and you can't refute the magic and the connection that you have. Like whether logic describes it or not, I don't think is a good marker for whether something's real or not. And I could literally like probably piss off the entire community of people, but and it's kind of where I am with astrology too. Like if our human technology is just to the point where now we can take pictures of the stars or things like that, like you can't just deny something because you haven't figured it out. And I really do believe that like if we are as above so below, all created from this stardust, and I mean, if it's all connected, like, wouldn't it still be like working together? Like, I do know that nothing logical has been explained about astrology, but how do you even know that we have the capacity to understand? How we don't even know. We don't even know. We just fucking we don't even know what like Pluto looks like on that like surface. Like there's just a lot that we still don't know because we haven't yet reached that technology. But just because we don't have technology to, show us every single nook and cranny of Pluto doesn't mean that there's not a nook and cranny on Pluto. Like I just think we have to kind of like zoom out and know that not everything is here on this in this physical world, which is also like a little intimidating and like epic and like big and but I feel like it's so important that we talk about like this idea that it doesn't have to be a binary. It doesn't have to be like this or that. it's also important to think about how the Western world literally cuts off anything in between, like having this connected, holistic approach. And I just, I really think there is an intersection. Like there's got to be this intersection between science and spirituality, because at least at this time where we're at on earth is like it's both. It's both the spiritual realm, but it's also both the earthly realm, and like it's not either or, it's like somewhere in between. It's in the gray area. And I understand. I was a black and white thinker too. I mean, and I still probably am a lot, but it's just so much easier for me to sit with and accept that there's a gray area and that there's room for both, and how can we be okay with both existing. Yeah, I have a whole episode on like duality and all that stuff too, if you like getting extra weird, baby. But I just thought this was such an important thing to talk about. I mean, because I know I'm not the only person that's experiencing this. I feel like people are less likely to talk about this because they don't want to be perceived as weird or other, and so I understand. I just also understand that a lot of my peace and happiness and success has been through embracing my spiritual side and embracing this energetic energy, oh my God, just this energy of like, it doesn't have to be backed by data to be true. Like, I think that's also like a slippery slope, because I'm also still a very logical, rational, data-based, evidence-based person. But I'm just saying you can't throw something out just because we haven't created the technology to be able to understand and perceive it the way we have other things. And I also think spirituality is cool, and I found a lot of peace connecting to what I perceive to be, my place in this universe, my place with higher power, God, source, universe, whatever you call it. And this relationship has really just changed my whole entire life and my whole approach to everything. And I just want to share the positive, helpful aspects, so that if you are kind of looking for something to like connect with yourself and connect with how you fit, where you fit in this world, and what kind of meaning you give to your life and your existence and what you're doing here on earth, baby. So I'm probably going to wrap it up there. I appreciate y'all listening to all of that. And maybe it will make sense. But I know I shared it from my heart, and it's something that I'm sure is helpful to talk about too, because I think that when we can talk about what's creating resistance and where we are kind of experiencing challenges, talking it out definitely helps us to process it and understand it in a different way. So it's like we got new information and we can do new stuff, and we can be less afraid of the unknown and uncertainty and make cool things happen. And I want to share this quote before I go. It was like from my reading that I did with my tarot deck yesterday. And I think this is the same part of the description, but it said, "We must have courage to believe that we deserve better, that there are even more joyous things that are awaiting us if we take this journey." And I just felt like that really resonated, because I wholeheartedly agree. So with all that, I love you so much. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Just get excited if you are really into astrology. I am working on something magical. So stay tuned for all of that, and I'll catch you later. Bye.